Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Brett and Matt Show. As always, I'm Matt. He's Brett. So we took a couple weeks off. We had holiday stuff going on and New Year's. Brett was up in Wisconsin hanging out, and we're we're right in time actually. The NFL playoffs are about to start. The season wrapped up. So with that said, I mean we'll jump into what happened last week a little bit, and we'll start with the Jets and Bills. So the Jets had a simple thing. All they had to do was win, and they're in. And I'm pretty sure I said a couple weeks ago that the Jets were going to be the ones in the playoffs. And now I'm looking kind of foolish because it's actually the Steelers that are in the playoffs.
We should have put a bet on that.
I'm glad we did.
I got you an ugly T-shirt of some sort. I like that. Like the SEC Big Ten one bet that we had a few years ago, which I easily lost. But yeah, if you're Rex Ryan, right? Because I know some of the fans and everything else have already been kind of coming down on Rex and how this team's performed lately. But to get that win against the Jets to knock your team out of the playoffs, that's got to feel pretty good, right? As a coach, I know, especially for him, I feel like he's always kind of holding some sort of grudge and enjoys sticking it to some teams and people.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I saw a meme going around that had said something about how he screws over the Jets and then ends up beating them and knocking them out of the playoffs, or not allowing them to be in the playoffs.
But obviously and that defense is really good. But you watch Ryan Fitzpatrick and how he performed in this game, and honestly, probably for most of the season, he's just not a playoff caliber quarterback. And that happened. That was probably, I think, the last couple of possessions. I was unfortunately in the car driving back. So I didn't get to watch the game, but from what it sounded like is he made some really poor decisions that ended up costing them any chance of coming back, like a couple picks there in like the final quarter.
Yeah, he kind of resorted back to being the reason why he was a free agent quarterback to begin with. I mean, it's too bad because I actually think Fitzpatrick had a really nice season. Just not quite enough to get it done.
And then obviously the Jets losing gave the Steelers a chance. All they had to do was beat the lowly Browns, which they accomplished.
Probably not. Yeah, why is this game even on our discussion? This isn't worth discussing. The Steelers won easily.
The Steelers won easily. I will say one thing that seems to be pulling the Steelers down so much, I don't know if it's necessarily teams stopping them. It's just like Roethlisberger and some of the other dudes being careless with the football. A couple other picks. I think they had a fumble in the game. Antonio Brown fumbled it, I believe. So they've been a team that's turned it over a lot frequently. But when they don't, obviously, like Antonio Brown is impossible to cover. It doesn't matter who he's going against. I feel like every single week, at least when Roethlisberger's quarterback, I know there was that like 2 or 3 week stint there with Vic and Landry Jones where he didn't do much. But other than that, the guy's crazy good.
Yeah, he's very good, and I agree with you. I mean, the Steelers, almost obviously they gave the Baltimore game away, and then, like, if you really look, yeah, did they beat the Browns handily? Yeah, but I mean, I feel like they didn't really come out, super sharp. So, it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously they play Cincy, which we'll get into a little bit, but that's going to be another good matchup.
How about this? This isn't obviously why we would normally put Steelers Browns on here, but Johnny Manziel not showing up to the team facility, which is required when you're going through, concussion protocol?
Concussion protocol.
Whatever it is. He apparently was in Vegas having a good old time wearing a wig and a mustache so he wouldn't get spotted. And then took a picture and had a fake geotag saying he was in a different location, obviously trying to cover his foot tracks. I'm starting to think maybe you were right. Maybe he is doing everything he can just to get out of Cleveland. I almost don't blame him, but at the same time, it's got to be hard for other teams to just buy in and give him at least any sort of long-term deal with the shenanigans he's pulling.
Yeah, I mean, he is clearly – I said it before. I mean, I really think he's clearly trying to get his way out, and rumor has it he would like to play for the Dallas Cowboys. That's what the rumor is. So Jerry Jones is the type to not give two crap about anything that happens or who he has on his team. So I know Jerry Jones has said numerous times he loved Manziel in the draft and wanted to spend the first round pick on him. Now he might be able to, either trade a super low pick or, if the Browns just turn him loose, he might be able to just straight up sign him. So something to keep an eye on there, especially with Romo's health always in question. I mean, obviously they need a quarterback for the future, and obviously something happens to Romo. So wouldn't surprise me at all if they rolled the dice with him.
Right in as a backup, you could probably get him for cheap, especially at this point. Like I said, market's not going to be there for him. So if he just gets straight up cut, might not be a horrible sign because he's not going to be relied upon to be a starter as long as Romo's healthy. So anyway, next game, obviously, our Packers got it wasn't an ass whooping, but it sure felt that way against the Vikings.
It did, and it's so weird. The best thing I saw from that night was Micah Hyde's one-handed interception. That was pretty
backhanded.
That was pretty awesome. But yeah, that was a tough game, man, and it's so weird because it's almost like, okay, so if we would have won, we would be playing the Vikings again in Lambeau. I don't think we would probably beat them. And instead, we're like, well, congratulations, Mike. You can have the division now go play Seattle, who whooped up on you in the regular season. Now, granted, I have something to say about that too. But back to this game, I mean, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers he's just not playing good. He just isn't. There's no other way to say it. Granted, in the last 2 weeks, I saw a stat he was sacked 13 times, which is ridiculous.
See, I feel like some of that's probably on him. I mean, without having studied every sack, but I'm willing to bet like 3 or 4 of those are probably on him, just kind of looking around, dancing, trying to escape when there was no real pressure initially. And if he just gets rid of the ball on time.
The problem is, Brett, there's no one to get rid of the ball to.
There were a couple times. There were a couple times in this game where they showed a replay, and it looked like people were coming open. It was just either his first read wasn't open and he kind of panicked or something, because there was one specifically I remember where Randall Cobb came open. He over the middle, probably like a 10-yard in or something like that. He was really open. But Rodgers just didn't see him or didn't pull the trigger, and then you could almost see like the frustration from the body language from Cobb, because he just was like, damn it, I finally do get open, and even when I'm open, I'm not getting the ball to me. The decision, by the way, I don't know what the hell that like second to last play call was, where we tried to run that out route or that little quick screen to the slowest person on the field.
That doesn't make any sense to me either, I gotta say.
Obviously Richard Rodgers doesn't break the tackle, can't get out of bounds, and it's a pretty piss poor block as well by the outside receiver. I don't know why you don't have it go the other way, where you have the receiver catch it and Rodgers blocking somebody.
It's true. That would make a little bit more sense, wouldn't it? And I mean, on the other side, honestly, I didn't think the Vikings looked great either. So I don't like either of these two teams' chances in the play.
Yeah, the Vikings, but they, like you said, they do have to play Seattle now, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But you won that game, but you might have ended up losing that war overall. We'll see, obviously, this weekend. But it's, like you said, there's some other things that we'll address in that game. But other big news as well, Peyton Manning. First, Seahawks cards. So you picked the Seahawks to win. I thought you were crazy, because the Cardinals actually still had something to sort of play for. And they had their starters playing it for the first half. It was 30-6 at halftime. Yeah, I didn't expect that.
You guys put a whooping on them. And, I mean, obviously, it's hard to get a real good judge on that. But it's hard. I don't know. I really don't I don't know what to make out of it. Like, Seattle's been on fire. They obviously, played their stars for the first half. I didn't watch the game, so I can't really say one way or another, it kind of looked like the Cardinals were dogging it or they were playing simple schemes. I don't know. I didn't watch the game. But, I mean, nonetheless, Seattle went and took care of business dominantly. And it'll be really interesting when we get to our talk a little bit about the Vikings and Seahawks, because the report is that Lynch will be back And it will be really interesting because obviously Russell Wilson has played lights out, arguably the hottest quarterback right now. Going into the playoffs, it'll be interesting to see if the Seahawks feel like they need to change their offense up and start giving Lynch the ball more instead of and taking it out of Wilson's hands, essentially. It'll be really interesting to see what they do there.
It's a good point, and I'll give my thoughts on that when we get to the Seahawks and Vikings. Something else that happened this week, we have Peyton Manning's return. Obviously, he came off the bench, which is a little weird. I figured if he would have been healthy at all enough to play, why not start him? But he comes in from the bench, leads the Broncos to the #1 seed.
Yeah, that's big.
That?
Really big, actually. I mean, with the Pats losing, which we'll talk about here in a second, I mean, it opens up the opportunity for Denver to get the 1 seed, and they were actually kind of not playing very good against the Chargers. And then Manning comes in, ends up doing enough to get the win. I mean, I think it's important. There's a big difference between playing in Denver and playing in Foxborough, if that's what it comes down to. And you know, with as banged up as that Patriots offensive line is, I mean, if it comes down to Denver against the Pats, I actually really like my chances with Denver because that defense is crazy good.
Yeah, defense is really good. My only thing is, Matt, it's going to be cold. We know Peyton Manning's going to choke.
I know.
It doesn't matter.
It's cold. He's going to flutter a hospital ball right to someone. He's going to get picked off and returned to the house, and that's how the Patriots will go to the Super Bowl.
Obviously, it was unique because I think he took some more snaps from under center this week than we'd normally expect him to. And that might have been game plan because obviously Osweiler was starting. He does more under center, but Peyton took some snaps under center, which bodes well, I think, because if they keep that up at least a couple of times a game, you know, where they can really run like Kubiak style offense, it's going to help the running game and continue to help the run game, which will then help keep some of the pressure off Manning so he doesn't have to feel the need to, you know, because obviously I think we all know his Armstrong's still not going to be there. I don't care if he's been out however long, regardless. It's just at this point in time, he's not the Peyton Manning that we like to believe or remember. So they're going to need to run the ball. That happens when they happen to do it from under center. So it's kind of nice to see him at least adjusting to that a little bit.
I agree.
And then the last thing, too, to talk about, as you just mentioned, the Patriots ended up losing to the Dolphins somehow. Nobody, I don't think a single team in our Pick'em League picked the Dolphins to win that game. A big shock. What's your takeaway from that?
My biggest takeaway was after the press conference Brady did, he was seen limping and holding the wall to walk away. So if I'm a Pats fan, that's probably the thing I'm worried about. Whatever, I lost to the Dolphins, but having Sue roll up on my quarterback's legs doesn't make me feel great. And you know, that's the one guy you probably can't afford to get hurt. And of course, he happened to get hurt in the last week, so you're probably okay if you're a Patriots fan. Like letting Denver, you'd rather let Denver have the 1 seed and your quarterback fully healthy, but now your quarterback's banged up and they have the 1 seed, so. It'll be something to keep an eye on, I think, for sure.
Definitely. What's nice is that they do have a bye week, right? So
Correct.
Hopefully he can kind of heal up. He shouldn't hopefully be limping around, you know, in 2 weeks' time. But at the same time, when a 300-pound dude does roll up on you, it's not something that heals overnight. They did seem to run a lot. Like, I think Brady had 5 passing attempts or something stupid low like that in the first half, which I think was like a career low, one of the lowest that he's ever had for a half. I think it was obvious they're trying to get Steven Jackson in that running game going, just to kind of get his defense versus it being more of like a passing style. And hey, James White had another big catch, which was nice. They should just use him as a wide receiver all the time. Just have him split in the slot and, I don't know, Steven Jackson, whoever they want in the backfield, because their receiving core currently, without my boy Edelman in there, isn't what it needs to be.
It's true.
But he should be back.
Yeah,
right?
Edelman's supposed to be making a return. Yeah.
So that's going to help. And then if they can, you know, get Gronk involved too, because he didn't really do a whole lot this past game. It almost looked like a way too vanilla scheme, like they didn't almost care they're like, yeah, one way or the other, I guess we're going to get a bye. So
Right.
might not have mattered as much to them being a 1 or a 2, especially because they know with Peyton there, they'll take care of business at Mile High if they have to. So let's just roll right in then to the playoffs here. Obviously, Packers, Redskins. You know, a couple weeks ago, you're like, damn, we'll be playing the Redskins? Yeah, we'll take that. Currently, I don't know how I feel.
Okay, this is the one thing you gotta say about this matchup. All right. So the Redskins have the 25th ranked pass defense. All right. If there's anyone we can maybe get a passing attack going against, it's probably against this team of all the teams that we might have to play. Number two, our defense has played really well. I think the matchup is going to be our defense against Kirk Cousins. To tell you the truth, it sounds really goofy saying that, but Kirk's played really well. Probably a little better than Russell. I'm just kidding, not better than Russell. But no, he's played really good. You know, it's not a cakewalk, but I mean, honestly, the whole Packers season, nothing's been a cakewalk. So you know what? At this point, I'm just like, if we win, fantastic. I'm a Packer fan. I'll be ecstatic. If we lose, great. I can start looking at the draft.
Which we do really like doing. I hate doing it a couple weeks earlier than we normally would want to, but at the same time, that gives us a little bit of extra time to study and have some fun with it. But yeah, it's weird because the last few years, I always feel like it was the defense usually. You know, people are like, we need to fire Capers or whatever. But this year, the defense, at least lately, has been playing all right. And it's the offense that hasn't been scoring the points that we've become expected of them, you know? So it's kind of like a weird little flip. Haven't really had both of them play really well together at the same time. And as you mentioned, Kirk Cousins has been hot. 10 touchdowns and 1 interception in December. And they've won, 5 of their last 6 to take the division. So they've been playing really well. They're red hot. Don't know if that always means any as far as, you know, being a red hot team coming into the playoffs or not. But it definitely has changed my mindset coming into it. Whereas, like I said a couple weeks ago, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's take these Redskins. We'll get through that first round at least. Not 100% confident at this time. All right, now we got the Seahawks and Vikings, the other NFC matchup. What do you think of this one?
Well, I mean, the one thing I will say about this, so the first time the Seahawks and the Vikings played, there were 4 guys that went out with injuries at pretty important positions. I think all those guys are back.
Yes, and not only are they important positions, but the players that did go up were also really good players. You're looking at a guy like Anthony Barr, you know, who's one of the outside linebackers.
Smith. I think Xavier Rhodes.
Joseph.
Yeah, there's some really important players that got hurt for them. That are, I mean, obviously Seattle lit them up. Do I think the Vikings will win? No. Do I think that it'll be closer than that other game though? Yes. If I was scheming in Seattle, I would try to keep Russell Wilson on the sideline and not let him go and do things. And you know what? Maybe the Seahawks will do the Vikings a favor and try and pound the ball with Lynch, and they'll just go 3-0, and then Russell Wilson has to go back to the sideline, and they just did them a favor.
And that's possible. Now, something that the Vikings didn't do a great job of, obviously you don't game plan for falling behind, you know, by that many points. But I think Adrian Peterson only had 8 carries.
That's asking to lose the game.
And that's not the way. It's exactly opposite of what you just said. You know, you're not really controlling the clock unless you're doing a bunch of. I mean, New England kind of does it that way, where they can do short passes here and there, and it's basically like a run game. But I feel like they're one of the only teams that really gets that going and like doing it effectively. The Vikings were not doing that effectively, and they weren't running the ball at all with one of the best players in the league still. So, and with all those guys coming back on defense, it will be a closer game. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with Lynch there. Do you think that's what they do? Is they just say, "Oh, great, Lynch is back. Let's just hand it off," or do you think they try that out and after like the first couple series, kind of like the Super Bowl, they're like, "Fuck it, let's just start winging it around"? Because that's
I don't know. Okay, Daryl Bevell confuses the hell out of me. Right? The guy is a clown. Okay, there are people calling for his head. They're absolutely right.
Well, okay. How about this? How about after losing Lynch and after losing Jimmy Graham and after them Thomas Rawls going out, that offense they still played pretty good. Like they can't call for his head now, right?
Probably not. No. Unless he
Not
does
until
another major screw up call like he did in the Super Bowl. What's that? We're gonna throw the ball instead of run it with the best running back in the league at the time. Come on, can't do it. Unless, but I mean, there's no way he's leaving unless something major like that happens again. Then maybe you'd have fans clamoring again.
Right, it would be very interesting though to see that happen. Let's just say they make it to the Super Bowl. It's probably not necessarily as good as Carolina or the Cardinals, even though they just shut out the Cardinals. But if they were to make it to the Super Bowl again and then lose on a silly play call, it's like, come on, do you fire your offensive coordinator who helped you get to 3 straight Super Bowls or whatever it be?
If it's a bonehead call like that, yeah. Are you kidding me? The average couch potato fan knows what to do. Are you serious?
You're right. I even knew what to do because I started yelling at the screen before the snap idea. I have witnesses for that. Wouldn't it be hilarious if they made it to that sort of position again and he force feeds Lynch instead of doing something creative with Wilson, and then people are like, "You got one of the hottest quarterbacks in the game. Why don't you do that?" You know, if it doesn't work, you're screwed. Everybody fucking hates your play call when you lose. Like,
it's true.
You know, because he has Russell Wilson is reading some stats. He's been like the second most accurate deep passer in the last month and the most accurate overall passer. Like 80% of his balls are on target and catchable, which is leading, I think it's like 83%, which is leading the league. You know, 500 rushing yards, first player to do 4,000 pass yards and 500 rushing yards in a season. So, I don't know, if he ever comes to that point again, I wouldn't blame him if he decides to do something with Wilson instead of handing it off to Lynch. Who's coming off an injury, you don't really know how well he's going to perform either.
I don't know. Maybe they should give it to the fullback.
No, that asshole, he'll fumble it for a fumble 6. A stupid score is going to happen again. Though he did catch a touchdown this week. All right, so we'll move on to the next game, AFC. We got the Steelers-Cincy division rival, so this will be the third time that they play.
A.J. McCarron. Apparently going to be the starter right now. They're not – I don't know. I haven't seen if Andy Dalton has officially been completely ruled out, but they're preparing – like McCarron's a starter. I don't know, man. I mean, the Steelers went in to beat them in Cincy in the regular season. So
was that the game that Dalton got hurt, or was it like the game after or something? Because I know McCarron played.
Actually, it might have been that game. Now that I think about it, I just remember they ended up beating them. I mean, McCarron isn't great. He's got you just think the Steelers have that offense, right? If it got clicking, it would be really hard for Cincy to keep up, I think, right?
Absolutely. I mean, McCarron hasn't passed for over 200 yards yet. And that's with guys like Eifert and Jones and obviously A.J. Green, and guys like Giovanni Bernard coming out of the backfield. I mean, that's an offense that has some weapons to it, and you know he hasn't at least taken advantage of it. He hasn't been like the worst quarterback ever, though he's been really streaky, where he started off, I think, one half really good, then totally disappeared in another half. Was that the Denver game? I don't remember which game it was, but it sucks because if they had Dalton, which is weird to say because we were always like, Dalton, he can't do anything in the playoffs. Like, that's just a bunch of choke artists. But they obviously have a much better chance with Dalton. I'd say I would definitely pick them to win. But with McCarron at quarterback, I don't know. The Cincinnati defense is good enough to take advantage, I think, of a lot of the stupid mistakes that Pittsburgh's been making lately. But
I think this is the tightest game. I think this is the tightest game out of all of them this week.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, I really don't know which way to lean for that one. So I'm not going to.
Not yet. We'll make our picks when it's time. All right, and then the last game, we've got the Texans, the Chiefs. Chiefs are the hottest team in football, right?
Dude, they're on a roll. I don't know. And the weird thing about it is no one's talking about them at all. Sorry, I know we both like J.J. Watt, but I don't see one defensive – although according to Brett, he's the greatest defensive player of all time. So, I mean, he should be able to beat the Chiefs and win the game single-handedly, right?
No, we shouldn't.
What?
Be able to do
You
that.
said he was better than Lawrence Taylor.
I don't think I've ever muttered any of these words. None of these words have ever come out of my mouth. Though he does have a chance to be one of the greatest of all time when it's all said and done. Here's the problem: is the Chiefs are getting healthier. I believe Tamba Ali as well as Justin Houston should play in this game. And then the Texans left tackle is now obviously out for the season. So some poor backup's going to get abused in this game. And that means that they're probably not going to run the ball great. Also means who the hell is going to be playing quarterback? I don't know, for the Texans.
Hey, maybe it's Brandon Weeden.
Who knows? But he's going to be under pressure a lot, and that doesn't bode well for just about any quarterback, but let alone these guys that they just had to keep picking up off the streets as injuries happened.
They do have DeAndre Hopkins. That guy is really good.
They do, and he should be guarded by Marcus Peters, who's one of the better corners and potential defensive rookie of the year. He's having a tremendous season. He's been targeted, I think, more than like just about any other corner. But on those targets, he knocks the ball down a lot. He's got a lot of interceptions. He's had a really good season.
It's too bad the Texans didn't just do what we said they should do, and they would be in really good shape right now.
They would be in great shape right now with either Teddy Bridgewater or Derek Carr quarterback. Instead, that just didn't happen. I don't really know.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can ask your question.
I was just, I don't think either one of us plan on probably picking the Texans this week. I just, like you mentioned it, I don't think they can keep up offensively. I think the Texans defense will play pretty good, but they're not going to be able to completely shut down Kansas City's offense. So.
Right, and Macklin's actually, obviously Macklin well know he's a really good talent. Given them an option that, for the longest time they didn't have with 2 straight years that they didn't throw a touchdown to a receiver, obviously changed a lot this year. It's a pretty good. It's not a great offense. I mean, I could see them also not scoring a ton of points because they do need that defense to help them out a lot. Which I think if you're going to need your defense to help you out a lot, it's probably going to be when you play Houston.
Yeah, this is a good team to need your defense to help out against, I guess.
And then obviously this is the last week of the season, so we figured out a bunch of coaching changes. One surprising non-coaching change. Which one's most interesting you?
Well, I guess, stuff kind of happened actually on Sunday, a little bit early, but I gotta say, I guess as we were off, we didn't talk about it. I was surprised that Philadelphia fired Chip Kelly. And the reason I say that is because I felt like the guy made so many changes, you had to give him one more year. Like, you had to give him one more opportunity to see. Because now he's ruined the Eagles for whoever comes in next. And I don't know. It does kind of suck for Chip, too, in a way, because a lot of the college programs I thought that would be interested in him have already made their hire. So that's an interesting dynamic. The one thing I would say, obviously, I think he'd be – if his offense is ever going to work in the NFL, it would need a team like with the right quarterback, I think. And the Tennessee Titans would be really fun with Mariota being reunited with him, but I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Obviously, another big move is Tom Coughlin resigning. The guy, with the Giants for 12 seasons, 2 Super Bowl rings. He's obviously a good coach. He's the oldest coach. I would honestly say the Giants have got to be real appealing if you're looking to be a head coach. Because, say what you want about Eli Manning, but you have arguably one of the best receivers in football. You're set with the franchise quarterback at the moment. Those are 2 pretty important pieces.
Yeah, you've got some pretty good
compared to some of the other jobs.
Right? Yeah.
Philly, Cleveland.
Okay, let's talk about Cleveland for a second, because this is their 4th coach in 5 years. It's got to stop. Like even every time that it happens, Mr. Thomas is like, hey, they've said that they're gonna, you know, give this guy like a legitimate shot and like try to turn things around. And then after like a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, they always fire him. And Joe Thomas recently even said, a guy that's been in Cleveland his whole career at Pro Bowl level. I think he's like a 7-time All-Pro between first and second team All-Pro. And he's like, you know what? Maybe these new guys don't want me. Maybe they want to go younger. And he's like, I've wanted to live my whole life, or not my whole life, but spend my whole career here. But he's like almost just open to the idea of like leaving now because I would almost be sick of all the changes. Like something's got to stop there. They just got to pick somebody and stick with it, at least for more than 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, and they fired the general manager. We talked about Johnny Manziel a little bit. You got to think he's on his way out too, I would guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't see a lot to like in that Cleveland job personally. Miami's an interesting job, I think. There are some pieces there for sure, on both sides of the ball. So I feel like that's one of the more interesting jobs.
San Francisco is apparently a job that Chip Kelly's reached out to. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because what are the 49ers going to do with Kaepernick, right? Like, they can either cut ties with him and essentially not owe him a lot of money, or if you got to bring in a guy like Chip Kelly that says, hey, I want a quarterback like that, all of a sudden maybe his career is rejuvenated. So it's an interesting dilemma. And the 49ers, let's be real. I mean, you chose your front office essentially over probably one of the 5 best coaches in the world for football. So how do you feel now?
He threw some major shade on Twitter, which was pretty hilarious. I even quote like a Bible verse, which was great. Yeah, I think if you're Kaepernick, you almost hope Kelly comes in because it's like, you know what, maybe he saves me another year, which means that $20 million paycheck comes in for one more year that I otherwise won't be getting.
Maybe he becomes good in that offense. Like, you just don't know, right?
He ran like a spread. He ran like an option type offense when he was in college, obviously at Nevada.
He did, and he had the most success when he was running that. I mean, he's always kind of been on the decline, but felt like last year they just stopped doing anything. Good job, Chris. Another typical. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut, but I'm not surprised at all. God, that guy's a clown too. What's that? Your offense has been going down. We're gonna promote you to being offensive coordinator, even though Kaepernick has struggled last year. Great idea. Good job, 49ers. God.
Maybe they just needed some yes men to just agree to whatever front office wanted to have happen. I don't really know.
They did, and now Thomas or whatever his name, the guy in the jumpsuit suit that you liked, he's gone.
Also, another pretty big thing that didn't happen was the Colts not firing Pagano or Grigson. I think they kept both, which was a major surprise because it had been reported for the longest time that like, oh, this is probably the last game, for either of them or one of them or both. And it turns out
you live in Indy. You tell me what's the vibe there.
I think a lot of people were obviously surprised because of what the media, with the exception of Dan Dakich. Dakich has been on this for a long time, saying that Pagano's not going anywhere, but everybody else was saying that he's out. You look at the year, this particular year they had. They still went 8-8. They played 5 different quarterbacks, which you can almost use an excuse, but at the same time, I guess so did Houston, and they're the team that won the division. So, but I mean, obviously, there's a difference between when you go from Andrew Luck to signing guys like Josh, whatever the hell his name is, off the street, and Ryan Lindley. I feel like some people thought he was like sandbag with running a type of offense or style and some players that he didn't necessarily want, which they want to put on Grigson. So I think if anything, people just really wanted Grigson gone more than Pagano.
Sure.
The players seem to have been really happy that Pagano stayed. Though it is interesting that reportedly there's 2 conflicting reports that they were talking to Sean Payton at the same time they were talking to Pagano, and when things fell apart with Payton, they decided to extend Pagano. Somebody else came out and said that never happened at all, so who really knows what happened there. But I think for the most part, the fans and the players are happy that Pagano's staying. I'm surprised it was an extension. Was it his last year? I don't remember if he had no time left on his deal at all, but at least give him another year, when you get your healthy team back and see what you can do with Luck. That's probably the best thing is it's oh, well, shit, you played most of the season without Luck. I guess we'll give you another chance, but an extension kind of surprised me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the vibe I got from Twitter reaction was people were just like, it is what it is, I guess. They still support their team, and, this is what ownership decided they want to go with, and we're going to support it because, honestly, what other choice do we have? So, I mean, those are, the main coaching changes. The last question I want to pose to you is, of all the coaching jobs that are open, which one would be most appealing to you? Obviously, I tipped my cap and said the Giants, I felt like were probably the most interesting or most set for me. But, I mean, there's some other ones that, have some real potential, I think, if you're a head coach. Which opening do you like?
Well, not Cleveland.
Oh, really? I thought for sure that was going to be your first choice.
Not Cleveland. Tennessee's interesting because that division is pretty trash, and you've got presumably your quarterback that you're going to need, a guy that can run any sort of offense probably that you're going to want to bring in.
Arguably have the franchise left tackle.
Maybe, or with the number 1 overall pick, you can take a franchise left tackle and move.
Yes, that's the other thing you got to think about with Tennessee that I forgot. Yeah, they have the number 1 overall pick. That's super interesting.
And that's kind of helpful because if you feel like you need a weapon, I mean, any sort of position that you think you need, you're going to get that best player at that spot.
Yes. Joey Bosa, or if you want to go, tackle.
And then you can move because they got Taylor Lewin is left tackle. They can switch him to the right side. So I mean, we have good bookends. I'm of that belief that you need 2 great tackles because there's kind of a blind side, but at the same time, if the read is front side, so if you're like a righty and you're looking left the whole time, your right side's still your blind side, depending on what the play calls for. So you definitely need 2 good tackles that can pass block. So that would be a great pick. It won't give you immediate success, obviously, because as a team that had number 1 pick, you're not expected to probably make the playoffs, but at least gives you really good pieces. And since I assume the franchise knows that it's a building block or a building time, that you're going to need 3 years to kind of get that together. So at least gives you some sort of job security. Miami's probably the only other one other than the Giants. That would be really interesting because at least you've got a decent quarterback. You've got a good running back, Lamar Miller, who I think's a free agent.
Got some receivers. There's a lot of
here and there pieces,
right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're not sure what quite is elite. I mean, obviously, you have Sue to deal with. If you can get the most out of that guy, you have an elite piece. Yeah. So that's kind of, I guess that's kind of the last question I had. So if we got one more thing to go over quickly, and that's just our pick'em, where we have Tsunami still in first place by 1 point, followed by me, and then St. Pat's Revenge, Stale Chips, which is Brett, Jeremy's Terrible Picks, Sparta Olson's, Lars, Joe Veek's team, our Arthur, and the boys. So some of those I don't think picks were made, but the top 5 or top 6 or 7 or 8 here, it looks like, are still in this thing. So
yep. And you do make picks for the playoffs, so it's not over yet.
Not over yet.
Looking at some of the picks that Tsunami made this week were real surprising. I think you caught up 3 or 4 spots, 3 or 4 points this week. So he had a pretty rough week for him because we all caught up. And then we got these playoffs. So we'll see who's the winner by the time Super Bowl's over, and then you get that prize. Still haven't told you what it was. It's going to be pretty lame, pretty chill, but it's whatever.
Sounds good. So yeah, until next week, we'll have some playoff talk to actually go over. And yeah, until then.
See you.